we already talked about this guy, and it will be related to the presentation which we made before. But this will be a little bit more in further in detail, more in details. But I guess you don't know anything about this German gentleman.
Well, I've heard about him because I think this
Except
name
for
is
her,
really famous.
except for information from me.
Yeah, not so much.
Yeah, yeah. Because I can imagine more Germanish name than Bismarck.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So basically, who this guy was. Before they talk about it, but never mind. So I'll tell you who he was, and also why his quotes are so remarkable that I want to talk about them.
Okay.
And in the lower part of the screen, you can see the first one that little bit
Yeah,
can
you've already mentioned that. I
yeah,
remember that
yeah,
one.
yeah, little bit. In basic nutshell, who was this? Bismarck was basically the main guy who is responsible for unification of Germany.
Okay.
He basically was not the chancellor, but the minister, and he was in the in the leading or in the lead of the German of the not back then not exactly German nation, but back then it was just a Prussia. But he's famous for his quote. You can see in the upper corner that not that some great question will not be settled by means of speeches and majority decision, but by iron and blood, which he basically did. He basically led Germany into 3 wars, which caused Germany's unification after the fall of the Holy Roman Empire.
Yeah.
And and
So he was like ready to shed blood, right?
yeah, he will. Let's say in that way too. He was the guy who stood in the front of the German unification, which Germany needed at that time, if they
Okay.
wanted if they wanted to be if they wanted to be unified. And and he stood also against the Bonapartes, for example, not against the no, against the Bonaparte, against the main one who
Yeah.
made the most of people think, but he stood against the Napoleon III, who was Napoleon's nephew, and Napoleon III was the president of not emperor of the second French Empire.
Okay.
And again, why not Napoleon II? Because the second one was in Vienna and died in Vienna because Austrians and the rest of Europe didn't want to let him go because they were scared that he will follow the footsteps of his father. But the third one was nephew, and he was escaping from all the emperors and kings who would like to catch him, just like Napoleon's son. And in nutshell, he became the president and later emperor of France. And he was ruling to France until the year 1871.
Okay.
71. And so there'll be a nutshell. So back to Bismarck. So Bismarck met with Napoleon III, and he basically defeated him in the Battle of Sedan. I don't know whether you ever heard about it.
I don't
It
think so.
sh- it basically it's this is little bit such second Waterloo, that
And where is it exactly?
Sedan is in the northern France.
Okay.
And basically it was the greatest defeat of France at that time, and basically the battle which caused that Germany won the Franco-Prussian War, and basically defeated France in that war, and caused the end of the second French Empire, and started the new French Republic. But
Okay.
it's a different story. It's a different story. So basically, Bismarck was in this battle, and he caused that Germany won. in the battle.
Do we
And
know
this
like how, or was there like a magnificent strategy involved
because
like
at the
before?
time it's a problem that France had and still France maybe has, but the problem that at that time France had the post-Napoleonic syndrome, that they were missing the
Mm.
great glorious time when they were ruling the whole Europe. And after this war, they still had had the syndrome after this war too, and they somehow tried to re-establish the glory and the mag and the greatness of the French army in time of from time of Napoleon, but they have never do that actually.
Hmm.
Basically, Napoleonic era was the last great era of France.
Okay.
As I said, I am still surprised that France exists after the First World War. Okay, okay. So this is basically this is the end of the end of the Second French Empire when Bismarck met with Napoleon III and basically ended the Second French Empire.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah.
And the last great things, or maybe the most significant thing he did, as I said, he stood in the in the leading of the establishment of the German Empire, which
Hmm.
basically happened after the Franco-Prussian War, and
Okay.
he became the chancellor of Germany. After this, after Germany was reestablished,
Hmm.
reunified, so he became the chancellor, and
What
he's
exactly does it mean that he was a chancellor? Like, what position is it?
I would say it's something like the second in command. Like you are, he wasn't the main leader. He was, because still German has chancellor,
Hmm.
and it's not like you are the king, because Germany had its rule. It was emperor, but he was Bismarck was an emperor. He was just like in the second in command. I would say that in that
Hmm.
way.
Okay.
Alright. So and he stood in that function of until he was until he was give me a second.
Hmm.
He was called off by new emperor of Germany, the Wilhelm II,
Okay.
because Wilhelm II was the type of ruler who had to spoil everything what was said, because Bismarck had a really good plan how keep Europe in peace, because he's considered for one of the most intelligent politicians in history, just like Metternich, because
Hmm.
he had a plan how because he knew that after the Franco-Prussian War, the France will want revenge and they will try
Uh-huh.
it again. So he
Uh-huh.
just did everything so that he isolated them politically, so that they would not have a slightest chance to win. So just for
Hmm.
example, make a treaty with Russia, with Austria, had some alliance with Great Britain, and just don't give them a chance. And if they tried, so they don't so as Germans said it at the end of the Franco-Prussian War, when they took Alsace and Lorraine, that France complained that you just don't leave us any advantage,
Hmm.
and the Germans answered, yes, we don't, because we know the another war with you will come, and once it happens, we want to have all advantages on our side.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah, so that way. So there will be the Franco-Prussian War, and one more thing. When I mentioned about Sedan, about the Battle of Sedan, so it wasn't the first defeat which happened to French at in that place.
Hmm.
They repeated the scenario
Oh.
70 years ago when Germans came
Okay.
back
Yeah.
after they came back before.
With the
So
tanks and everything.
exactly.
Much better equipped.
Yeah, just like when Germans were planning the invasion of Russia. So there is the question whether they somehow got inspired by Napoleon's failure in 1812, and their answer was just like, let's say he had a horse, we have tanks.
Okay.
It kind of didn't work. Okay, and there is that what I explained before that Bismarck was kind of political genius. That he
Mm-hmm.
basically made a treaty with everybody, with with whom who could.
Mm-hmm.
With Russia, with Austria-Empire, but Austria-Hungary was back then a great ally of them. But especially with Russia, because the quote that what's secret of politics, make a good treaty with Russia, because of the thing that Russia is kind of a big state, which is not surprised, but it's a state which spreads across two continents. So you would say that it also have a lot of manpower.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean you just can't beat so easy. So
Yeah.
because this is a question what Europe was dealing with years ago, during the Crimean War in 1884,
Mm-hmm.
when basically Russia was spreading its territory to the Balkan, and Europeans didn't know how to stop them. So they were just thinking about invading Russia, just like Napoleon, but because Napoleon ended up how he ended up, so he didn't want to repeat it again because of the weather and everything and the largeness of the Russian military. So
Mm-hmm.
therefore they just stayed at the politics of appeasement.
Mm-hmm.
And this also a little bit big problem of today, because today some politicians think that the Europe itself could beat Russia. No,
That Europe what? Sorry?
that Europe could beat Russia itself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No,
Probably not, right?
even the whole United Western Europe could not beat the Russian bear.
Mm-hmm.
I would wish that they could, but it's not possible. They
Look
would.
at how big it is, you know,
Yeah, I
it's
know,
just
but
impossible.
this is still not the main the whole size of Russia. This is just the one quarter, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, even
because of
though
the
people don't live everywhere, I'd say, right? Because
yeah,
there is
but it's
Siberia and those
yeah,
places not very hostile,
but
but
it's a
still.
not democratic state, which means that
Mm,
they will throw everybody into the war, men,
mm,
women,
mm,
everybody.
mm, mm. Okay.
They would consider it just like another patriotic war, just like everything would happen when everybody attacks Russia.
Mm,
Okay, so there will be the explanations of the Bismarck's quote about Russia, and he was kind of right as I described it, just like Napoleon tried it before and he failed.
mm-hmm.
But even though,
This
well,
picture, like 1812, like on the
hmm?
horse, he looks really devastated.
Of course he's devastated. He has the reason because he just rethinking. But there is one thing.
But look at
When
the poor guys on the left, you know,
I know.
that.
But there is one thing. When Napoleon was retreating from Russia, he wasn't actually riding on a horse on the way back, because it was of the freezing weather. It was almost impossible to ride on a horseback. So therefore, he was riding in his carriage, just like
Okay.
while everybody else was outside and going by foot.
Going on foot, yeah.
It's
I
like
was
going
thinking, I was thinking it was,
why everybody was going on foot.
yeah, I was thinking it was because the horses had already died. You know, they.
Later, yes, but when still they had horses, so as I said, it was impossible because of the freezing temperature.
And the poor men, they just marched alongside. Yeah.
Do you remember I once told you the story of the Napoleon soldiers when they had lysis, and they had so many lysis that they even eaten through their skin in their head?
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Yes.
I remember that I read it in one of the stories, and seriously, just like checking head of the second guy, and just like he saw that they are eating through his head.
Oh my goodness. Phew. And this guy is just pleasantly covered in the carriage, walking back
Yes,
home from
yeah.
Russia.
And then he left his army, and justify just like we have a uprising in France. I need to be there. So you will make it, boys.
Bye.
Exactly. Bye bye.
See ya.
He did it for he did this once before in Egypt when he kind of figured out that the thing that he will become next Alexander the Great kind of didn't work. So he escaped from Egypt, returned back to France, and became the first French consul. Don't worry, boys.
Okay.
I will return. Everything is okay.
Good for him.
Not good for his man,
Exactly, yeah.
and therefore I don't like him.
I see.
As I said, even Joan of Arc was more man than him.
Yeah, obviously.
Okay. Okay. So, do you have any questions about this so far?
No, so far
Everything is
everything's
clear.
clear, yeah.
Okay. All right. So there will be Napoleon's attempt to conquer Russia, but it wasn't the only one. And the somehow Germans a century later
Oh my
had the
God.
same necessity to do it again. As I said, they did it on anniversary, on anniversary of Napoleon's invasion, which was
Yeah, June
kind of
24th and
exactly
June
June 2024.
22nd, yeah.
In June, everybody has kind of necessity to invade Russia.
Yeah,
So
because it's probably the month when you at least suppose the weather to be better. But
yeah, but there is the thing before you conquer the whole big chunk of the continent, you reach you there will be the first winter come.
that's horrible. Look at the guy on the right. That's crazy.
Yeah, this
Who are these people? Like,
normal Jews, just like me or everybody. It's like people
mm,
who were enchanted by the propaganda that they will get land in east and
this guy doesn't look like enchanted at all.
no, not no longer because after Stalingrad, the Germans finally find out who Hitler really is. That he is not here for their glory. That he doesn't care about them.
Okay.
That's the old moment when they realize too late.
Mm.
But basically, the German attempt started quite similarly, just like the French one. They just at the beginning they were winning, and but at the end they hit Moscow. It didn't end up well. Then hit Stalingrad. It ended up pretty well, and they hit Kursk, and it was kind of sure that this will not be as they planned at all.
I don't know much about that,
Never
but
mind.
yeah, I've heard that name. That's it.
Sorry.
I've heard that name, Kursk.
Yeah.
That's
Because
pretty
now
much
the
it.
Ukrainians invaded the area.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, any questions about this or
No, it's
everything's
just it's
everything's
just
clear?
horrible when you look into the face of the guys on the left. Oh, sorry, on
I
the
would just
right.
say that many of them ended up in Russians' gulags, and
Mm,
not not too many returned
mm,
returned at home.
mm.
I think that at Stalingrad, at Stalingrad, Russians took about 300,000 Germans, and I think that just 50,000 returned at home.
Oh my God. Mm,
Somebody has to somebody has to work in that mines. So
mm. Yeah, but there are people, from today's
I know.
perspective, it's just crazy. It was crazy even back then, but now it's even more horrible.
Yeah, I understand. So, any questions about this, or
No,
everything's fine?
everything's clear.
Okay. And so this was another attempt to uh, attack Russia, and the other example, which actually didn't ended up well for actually bad for the attackers, but this was actually when Russia invaded Finland, and
Okay.
they tried to take the whole region, but the Finns managed to defend defend their land, and even though they lost some territory, they saved the Finland from being another part of the Russian of the Soviet Union. I don't know whether you've ever heard about this conflict, but it was something like
Just
we have,
from you a bit, I think
yeah,
you
we,
mentioned
because
already.
just like we have Ukraine today, so at that
Mm.
time people had this because it was just like the Western allies didn't want Stalin to Russia, but simultaneously they need Stalin for they need Stalin in the war against Hitler. So it just like what you decide, you know.
Mm.
So we just like we would like to help you, but we can't. So
Okay.
there were some volunteer groups who came, for example, from America or from the Western countries to help defense, but usually the war was basically fought on partisan style, just like because Russians had a lot of techniques, many
And what does it
tanks.
mean to fight a battle partisan style?
I will explain. Like, for example, they were founding in small groups. They were ambushing the Russian convoys, and they were using the terrain around them because I don't know whether you have been in Finland, but it's more like it's not the landscape, it's flat landscape, just like
Mm.
in Ukraine or in the whole Russia, but it's
Mm-hmm.
it's mostly like hills and forests, and
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
not friendly when you have a large army to get through. So Finns were using this fact, and they were and for their advantage. So and
Mm-hmm.
there is also legend about one of the most greatest sniper of the time. Uh, he was called White Death because he killed
Mm-hmm.
something about 500 enemies.
Mm-hmm.
And basically that way the Finns successfully defended their land. And even though they
Mm.
lost some
And it was
territory,
just this one conflict or this
hmm,
one time that Russia tries to win over Finland, yeah?
yeah, just this war.
So
It
they must
happened
have
just
been
this.
pretty
Just,
strong, really, and pretty intimidating for Russia because they
But
never tried again since
later
then.
Finns were helping the Germans in the invasion against Soviet Union.
Mm-hmm.
So they were
Okay.
just they were Germans ally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah, good.
and there is also a movie about it a little bit, Unknown Soldier. I guess you have not seen it.
Mm-mm. You're guessing that right?
I think so. And yeah, so that way. Okay, so no questions about this.
Mm-mm.
Okay, and there is one more example of the Bismarck score, but actually in this example, Germany actually beat Russia.
Germany beat Russia.
Exactly, in the First World War, but
Mm-hmm.
not in the way not in the way you think, but how they did it. Not basically by the military strength, but they. Have you heard about the guy Lenin?
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
somewhat.
and do you know he was German.
I don't know that.
So he was, and he was in exile in Switzerland. So
In Switzerland.
Switzerland, yes. And
Oh my god.
how Germans needed to win the war. They need to defeat Russia, but they knew that Russia is too big to defeat them by the external force. So you can't attack them from outside. You need to attack them from within. So they just set the train into Russia with Lenin on the train, in order that Lenin will start a revolution in Russia against the government, which will undermine the government and cause internal problems, and it will be much easier for Germans to attack Russians and to beat them.
Mm-hmm.
Which basically happened, and this way Russia became communist state. So the
Okay.
reason why the guilty party was responsible for the thing that Russia is today. It was not today, but used to be Soviet state or communist state. So the guilty party is Germany.
Well, that's. I will probably need some time to process this because I'm not sure I fully understand it.
Just like
So
when I
Lenin
just
traveled from Switzerland
hmm.
to Russia,
Mm-hmm.
from exile in Switzerland.
Mm.
So he wasn't originally from Russia.
He wasn't
He
there. He
was
wasn't there.
he
He
was
wasn't
German.
Russian. He was German. Yes. But for example, the city Saint Petersburg, why was they named on Petrograd? Because it sounded too Germanish. Saint Petersburg.
Okay. Okay. Mhm.
Yeah. So basically,
Mhm.
this way, the Red Revolution in Russia happened, and in response on this, Russia became a communist state. Tsar went into exile, the Russian Tsar,
I
and
don't understand how like the whole country became a communist country after this one thing.
because Russia at the time was seriously in bad situation. And when I mean bad situation, I mean bad situation that they were famine across the whole country, and people just like were fed up with the war, and because it
So these
also
were they were just catching at straws, right? Everything
mm,
that looked better or promised better
just
future.
because everything looked better than then go into the wasted war
Uh-huh.
and be in the meat grinder, which basically because Russians didn't have not too many resources, and and basically they were losing the war,
Hmm.
and no,
Hmm.
and the moral of the Russian army was on the low level, so therefore
Hmm.
nobody wanted to fight anymore.
Okay.
So just like everything was better than go into the war,
Okay.
and
Mm-hmm.
and all Russians just wanted one thing: to finish it.
Is it is it just my feeling, or is it
Hmm.
really like that the communism, I have the feeling,
Hmm.
always came when a country was feeling bad, it was in bad
Yeah,
condition, and so
basically,
the communism
yeah.
came and
Hmm.
like air quotes saved everything
Because
because the
basically
people were catching at it.
totalitarian regimes thrives on the bad situation, just like
Yeah.
how Nazis get to power when after the Great Depression, when people lost trust in democracy and
Hmm.
in this system, so they clinch to the totalitarianism,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because they because it's also about the collective shadow we talked before, and
Mm-hmm.
also that how's the way to say it, also that the collective shadow, and people just like saw the only possibility in this, how to get better,
Hmm.
how to
Hmm.
improve the
Hmm.
situation.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so do some questions or
No,
all good?
I get it so far.
Okay. Okay, so basically this way Germany beat Russia in
Beat Russia,
1918.
yes.
Beat
Mm-hmm.
Russia in 1918, but they didn't make it again, fortunately. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so we continue, and this get us to one more war which happened with
Japanese.
exactly samurais versus tsars.
Okay. And I see Korea here,
Yeah,
like in
because
the.
at that time, I think Korea was a little bit part of Japan.
Mm-hmm.
It, but what happened basically here is uh, that Russian crossed their swords or ships, because it was as on land, so on sea, mostly on sea. They started the war with Japan, and this was also because Japan won this war, so it's also a great shock, because it was non European country or empire or power who defeated back then considered like developed, intelligent European mighty,
Mm-hmm.
and it was also a war which almost most led England and Russia against each other,
Okay.
because England had naval alliance with Japan's, but simultaneously England had alliance with Russians. So
Okay.
now choose your side.
Okay.
So this way basically this war happened, and also this war helped Russia very later in the First World War when it happened, because Russians lost this war, but they learned a lesson that modern warfare is now about guns and artilleries and rifles, and about about techniques, and this lesson they later applied when the First World War happened against the Austria-Hungary, because
Mm-hmm.
Austria-Hungary was against Russia and they invaded Russia, but the Russians easily beat them because they applied their new knowledge against them, and also because Austria-Hungary was a little bit against everything what's new. For example, the Emperor of Austria-Hungary hated cars because he was scaring his horse.
Okay.
So because of that, and also because commanding of Austria-Hungary was at the time very intolerant, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to be on their side. So there will be basically this quote, this Bismarck's quote about that's what the secret of policy is made a
Yes. Now it really makes sense.
good uh, good treaty with Russia.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, so we can continue in that.
Mm-hmm.
And that get us to another quote, very significant, and I would almost quote Bismarck Nostradamus for this, because he definitely predicted the First World War.
Okay.
He basically predicted the whole Sarajevo, because as he said, it's one day something will happen in Balkan, and once it happens, it will start to one great European war,
Mm-hmm.
and which basically happened, because
Mm.
that what happened in Sarajevo, that Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie was killed there,
Mm-hmm.
basically started the First World War. But it was just like one of the many consequences which were building,
Mm-hmm.
building the path
Yeah.
towards this. But it didn't have to happen. Just like, because at that time nobody gave a damn about these two, because they neither him, let alone her, were favorite in Austria-Hungary.
Okay.
Maybe in Germany, because Franz Ferdinand de Este was a great friend of the German emperor, but basically because he married her, he wasn't he wasn't
So popular.
one of the popular Austrians, in spite
Mm-hmm.
of the fact he was supposed to be the heir of the throne. And there's
Mm-hmm.
also the irony, because he was the only one who wanted to give autonomy to the not Yugoslavia, to Serbians who were living
Mm-hmm.
in Austria-Hungary, because Austria-Hungary was mostly with the consists of multiple nations, just like Czechs, Hungarians,
Mm-hmm.
Austrians, of course, Germans, but also Serbs. And Serbs wanted to establish their own land and unite all Serbs in the Balkan and create
Okay.
one big state, Yugoslavia,
Okay.
which basically they did. And how did it turn out?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm surprised after this is like
Hmm.
too far away, but
Hmm.
I'm surprised that we're even
Hmm.
managing to live normal lives and relatively peaceful lives,
Hmm.
here in the center of Europe.
Hmm.
After all this happened, the people constantly fighting for their lands and
Hmm.
their egos and conquering other countries.
Hmm.
I'm surprised that we are able to be stable, more or less, let's say.
Because as we talked many times, we are not, but we all could be kind of be considered just like
Mm,
one big German
mm,
hegemony.
mm, mm.
So we have something common, just
Yeah.
like Austrian Germans, we all. But
Mm,
the Balkans, at the time Balkan was the Middle East of the world. Therefore, when Prussia beat Austrian Empire in the Battle of Hradec Králové, I don't know what is it in English, but so the Prussian king wanted to go up to Vienna and capture the whole Austrian Empire, and he was telling him, no, no, don't do that, don't do that. Why? Because you don't want to share the borders with Balkan, because it's such a mess, such a battle, such a storm that you basically don't want to have Balkan on your hands.
Yeah, yeah. You don't want to mess up with them.
Exactly. You don't want to deal with this. You want to stay away from it. So because all of the Balkan nations are very nationalistic and they just can't coexist each other.
Yeah, yeah.
And also because for a very long time the Balkan was under the rule of the Ottoman Empire, and before the First World War there was the like a rebellion part in the war against the Turks. It basically gave independence to the states like Romania, Bulgaria, Greece. And after this war came another war, which basically was among these new established states over territory, because each of them wanted to be new ruler of Balkan.
Yeah, yeah.
So therefore, you didn't want to be part of it at all.